tonight's video, and it will be available on our YouTube channel. So, and we do encourage you to check our YouTube channel for some other videos, other webinars that we've already had. And I do want to say a couple things before we jump right in and introduce our fantastic panelists tonight, because we keep answering this question over and over and over again. And the first thing that we want to say is your student is now in charge of the information, and your student is the one receiving the information from Virginia Tech at their newly created @vt.edu email. So as a family member, make sure that your student is checking daily their new @vt.edu email, which is now where all that information is getting, including the information that you might need to know about payments and deadlines and things like that. And if you're unsure about where to start, the best place, the best place to start is at the nowwhat.vt.edu website. And we'll be referring to that throughout the webinar tonight, and I'll post that into the chat, and it will be a final screen. The last thing I want to tell you before we begin is that you might be frantically taking notes or wanting to edit, copy, and paste the chat or the Q&A. Don't worry. If you want the Q&A, all the questions and all the answers, plus everything that we put into the chat, you can fill out a survey at the end of the webinar, which there'll be a link and a code visible. And within that survey, you can share your email address with us, and we will email you the entire Q&A and the entire chat. Speaking of Q&A and a chat, since this is a webinar, you as attendees do not have the ability to use the chat to communicate with everyone or directly to us, but you do have the Q&A where you can post your questions. We will post some things into the chat that you can see, but use the Q&A for your very focused questions. In other words, listen, before you start peppering us with too many questions. We will answer your questions at the very end of tonight's webinar, because we just do not have the people power to be looking at it and answering it in real time as much as we might have in earlier webinars. With that, it is my great pleasure to introduce not just a colleague at Virginia Tech, but I would say my friend, because Lauren and I haven't spent as much time with anybody else on webinars as I have with Lauren Thomas. Lauren is the Director of Academic Advising Initiatives here at Virginia Tech, part of the Academic Advising Center at Virginia Tech, and she has a great program for us, and we're going to turn it over to Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for the time tonight, and we're going to let you teach us.
Yep. Thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our academic advising and course registration webinar. As Barry had said, my name is Lauren Thomas, and I do serve as our Director of Academic Advising Initiatives. And our role here at Virginia Tech is to help support and coordinate with all the other directors of advising in each one of the colleges, so we can have a seamless process and something that is very similar for all students, regardless of what major that you're in. And so, as Barry said, I'm going to go through a lot of information. We'll be sure to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. And then I'll be taking some small little water breaks as my allergies have, I think, gotten the better of me. So bear with me as I make it through this, but we'll get your questions answered. So the first thing that I want to cover is what I'm going to cover within this presentation today. And so we're going to start out with some initial student success resources just to be aware of that are housed within our academic areas. I'm going to review each of the academic colleges briefly, just so that you know what the structure looks like here at Virginia Tech, the elements or components of a degree, what makes up a degree. Granted, that can vary across each one of the colleges and majors. Also talk a little bit about transfer credit, what academics and advising looks like at Virginia Tech, and then some resources for families to kind of help along this process as well. So here at Virginia Tech, we do look at student success being promoting the students' learning and development by providing them those resources and support during their time here at Virginia Tech. We know that each student is here for maybe a different reason, have different interests and goals, and we want to provide those support services to those students so they can have a successful transition and time here at Virginia Tech. So we just, again, want to make sure that we're supporting each individual student with their goals of why they're here at Virginia Tech. So some of the Student Success Initiative resources that we have, and again, this is just a handful within our Student Success Initiatives area. First is the Student Success Center. So we do provide tutoring for every student here at Virginia Tech, both individual and group. And these can also span across academic success seminars that are related to time management, test taking skills, how to study, some of those other skills that may or may not have fully developed at a previous institution or from high school that maybe need to be looked at or refined at the college level. So we do provide those support services as well. All of the services within the Student Success Center are free of charge. There's no additional charges outside of the student fees that are already paid as part of tuition and fees here at Virginia Tech. So again, free to every student. They do also offer peer academic coaching and some other additional support services, but absolutely for tutoring and any of those success seminars. We do also have an Office of Veteran Services, which supports our veterans and military connected students, those who might be using military benefits from family members. And again, they're helping with any kind of documentation, processing of benefits, making sure that the courses and credits that you're completing are allowing you to utilize your benefits to the maximum and to help with that successful transition to Virginia Tech as well. So again, Office of Veteran Services is an option and resource for those students. We do also have our Multicultural Academic Opportunities Program, or what we call MAOP for short, where this provides support for diverse students when they're looking at pursuing any kind of research opportunities. Right now, we actually have our Summer Research Institute taking place here at Virginia Tech with students from various other institutions working alongside faculty, depending on what their research interest areas are. And they spend their entire time here in the summer to gain that, real life experience working under faculty and being mentored along that process. Then we also have what we call transitional advising, which I'll talk a little bit about later as well. But transitional advising is also a service that we provide to students who are contemplating changing their major. And this even goes for students who are starting their first semester in the fall. That maybe when you submitted your application for admission, you were thinking one major, but now maybe that's been a little while and you're kind of thinking about some other options, or maybe you've had some other experiences that have kind of caught your interest and you're contemplating changing a major. We do offer transitional advising to every student, even our new incoming students to Virginia Tech that work one-on-one with an academic advisor to kind of talk about what that process would look like. And if that is a good option, or maybe it's a better choice based off of your goals of staying in your major, but maybe adding a minor, just to kind of give you an idea of what options are out there. So that is always something that even if you are content with your major now, it could be something that you seek out later on if you decide this is maybe not the best fit major for you.
Lauren, isn't there a statistic of number of students who change their major that might ease some families' minds?
Yes, absolutely. So students typically, don't know the statistics offhand, but I want to say the majority of students, if they don't change, or not if they don't, but typically change their major once, if not twice, just because they're exploring what those different opportunities are. And it may be that you didn't even know we had a major in that particular area. And so once you get here and are maybe educated about some of the other major possibilities, then yes, absolutely, always normal. And so we welcome that, when students are seeking out those other opportunities. absolutely. So as you see here on your screen, Virginia Tech does have 8 different academic colleges within the university. You'll see 9 listed here because University Studies down at the bottom is our program for exploring students who are not quite sure what they want to major in just yet. And so technically University Studies is not a college because nobody can graduate in University Studies, but we do represent them here because they do function as a college. They're just not technically one. So the other 8 are a specific college that do house multiple majors. And then you'll see the letter abbreviations at the end of each college, which you might again see later on in either emails or documentation, just to make you aware of kind of what some of the Virginia Tech language and acronyms are, and that they do correspond to a particular college. That would be the student's home college, unless they again chose to change their major, which they can change across colleges. Because when students are admitted to their initial major, they are admitted to that major in that college, but they are also just admitted to Virginia Tech as well, so can move across the colleges. You're not stuck just in that college that you were accepted into. So within each one of those academic colleges, including University Studies, each college does have a dean. And so that dean is the support and the leader of that college, making those connections with alum, working with different organizations to help support the individual college's needs. Then you have an associate dean who typically is providing leadership over the student experience within that college. So really working with students, academic policies, making sure those are being followed, and to also provide support to those students if they were to run into any challenges, but to also support that college's director of advising or student support, because each college does have a director of advising, which that's typically who we in academic advising work alongside when talking about these different onboarding experiences and transitions. And so that director of advising or student support individual is going to be a key person to be aware of within your college, because that's who I would always recommend going to in addition to your assigned advisor, once that's determined, if you were to need any additional academic support, that these are the individuals who I would look to as kind of part of the leadership of the college in that academic experience. So moving on to the elements of an undergraduate degree, which again, this can vary some of the components based off of the major that the student is pursuing. But to start out with, we do have the Pathways General Education requirements, which will be roughly 45 credits. Every student at Virginia Tech has to complete those Pathway General Education requirements. There might be some major specific courses, depending again on the major, that also complete pathways requirements. But again, those are the specifics that you'll get within academic advising during your advising session over the summer, to know what those requirements are and be directed to what courses still need to be completed for your degree. Next, you do have core degree requirements or major requirements. Some programs have both. And again, as you see here on the screen, it's going to vary and are major specific. So depending on that program, what are the core requirements? They're usually specific major courses. And so again, that will vary for each of the programs. Then students may or may not be required to complete a minor, or they may also have different options within their major, which this is really, the options is more of a specialization within that major if you wanted to have a certain focus. And so some majors have options, some don't. Again, that's why it's varies and is not applicable to all degrees and majors here at Virginia Tech. And then minors are not required for every student to have. There are some majors that do recommend that students have minors. And again, you know, other students may choose to add a minor if they are looking to add any additional knowledge or experience that they're not getting from their current major or degree. So those are things to always think about. Again, not required though that every student has a minor, it's just an option available. So each individual student has to have a minimum of 120 credit hours to be able to graduate. There are some degrees that do require more, but a student cannot graduate with less than 120 credit hours. So just keep that in mind, that there is a minimum and that must be 120, and that goes for every student, even though some majors do require more. So on the next portion of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about transfer credit. So credit can be viewed in the Hokie SPA student information system under the grades menu. The transfer credit is only going to be awarded from official transcripts that are either sent from any other degree granting institution or official score reports. And so if, for example, a student graduating from high school has dual enrollment, yes, we can see the dual enrollment on the high school transcript, but we cannot award from the high school transcript. It has to come from the institution through which the dual enrollment was taken. So local community college or something along those lines. And so making sure that either you or your high school counselor has requested that those be sent, because that's how we award that official credit from those official transcripts from that degree granting institution. The AP, IB, CLEP, and any other testing that will give you college credit, those are going to come from those official agencies that are supporting those programs. And so, for example, at College Board, if you have your AP scores sent to Virginia Tech, we typically get our first electronic batch of those scores in the beginning of July. So right now, you may or may not see that on your transfer credit screen in the grades menu in Hokie SPA, and that's okay. We don't expect them until early July. I feel like every year it just gets a little bit later that they send those score reports. But as long as you are aware of what exams you took for the AP, and if you already know some scores, just to have that, written down somewhere. So when you're meeting with the academic advisor, you can let them know that, to make sure that you don't enroll in a class that you would already be getting AP credit for. So just to be aware of that. We do also have what we call the transfer guide with the link there on the screen, but I think they also will put that in the chat, that will give you information related to what exams you take for AP and what the score is and what kind of credit you would get at Virginia Tech. We also have a transfer guide for the VCCS, for the Virginia Community College System, so that if you did take dual enrollment in the state of Virginia, it's usually through a Virginia Community College, so you can see what credit you will get from the courses that you took as dual enrollment. And we also have within the transfer guide all other institutions that are not in the Virginia Community College System and are out of state. So you can always do some of this kind of pre-evaluation on your own if you choose to within the transfer guide, because you can always look up any of the institutions and look up the courses that you have taken to see if you receive credit here at Virginia Tech. You do have to have a grade of a C or better for courses to transfer or to receive credit at Virginia Tech. A C or better. A C minus does not count. It has to be a C or higher. And in addition to that, the transfer credit screen transfer guide, excuse me. If you do not see a course in there that has transferred here and it's not listed, it does not mean it will not transfer. It just means that nobody has transferred that course here before. So what I would recommend doing is, if you don't have a course syllabus available, find one for that course so you can have that on hand, because our registrar's office would be reaching out asking you for that course syllabus so they can have it evaluated to see if it will transfer to Virginia Tech. So there's still a lot of moving pieces over the summer, especially with transfer credit, if there's some documentation that's needed to be able to do some of those evaluations, because they have to be sent off to the department, reviewed, and all of that.
Lauren, this is a
Uh-huh.
good time to just remind families, and I think I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again at the end, and we say it every day over and over again. we have some folks who are asking, like, what is StarRes? What is the Hokey Spa? And we just want folks to know that all this information is being sent to your student, to their new @vt.edu email. Your student is now the funnel through which all this information is going to come. And I'll post in the chat one more time our nowwhat.vt.edu website, which can kind of give you as families a window into what kind of information might be coming and when. And that's true, Lauren, those C minuses, they don't transfer. And I'm not going to say how I know that, but I might have a community college student right now. Okay, back to you.
Yep. No worries. And all right, so lastly on the transfer credit, like I said before, if you just want to have an idea of what credit and stuff that you're going to get, we are able to look at some of the information off of the self-reported academic record. But if the student also has that available as they are meeting with their advisor during the summer, that's also helpful as well. So jumping into the next steps of with that self-reported academic record and transcripts, and I have this separated out here by first year students and transfer students because it's a tad bit different. So for first year students, you're always going to want to make sure that you update your self-reported academic record through your admission portal or your applicant portal, and then submit your high school transcripts as soon as you're able to, because I know that we have varying graduation timelines, you know, even across the state and beyond. So turn those in as soon as possible, but also updating your self-reported academic record, that also has to happen as well. For transfer students, you'll want to make sure that you update your self-reported academic record with your spring grades. And if you are enrolling in any summer classes outside of Virginia Tech, you will want to make sure that you indicate those as well and put that they are in progress. Because again, we are able to see that information to a limited capacity within advising, so that we know what kind of summer enrollment you might have. And then official transcripts from spring grades do need to be submitted to Virginia Tech by June 15th. So that's coming up, about 10 more days for them to receive that from you. And if they don't receive it by then they will reach out asking where it's at, to the students' Virginia Tech email. So just make sure that you're working on that or have that sent. So again, the applicant portal is where you'll find your self-reported academic record. And so just make sure that you keep that as up to date as possible. Okay, another thing that we tend to recommend is that students take at least 15 credit hours per semester, because it is found that when students have 15 credit hours per semester or more, that they tend to have a higher GPA, that they're more engaged and obviously graduate on time. And so we always find that when students have too much time on their hands, sometimes things don't get done. So trying to determine that 15 to 17 credit hour, just depending on if you have to take a science lab. But that's what we usually recommend each student take in that first semester, is anywhere between 15 and 17. Again, for the reasons that you see here, the higher GPA, more engaged, and that they have that time management to get things moving in those semesters. We do also recommend, kind of with all of this, with the transfer credit, if you have any previous credit coming from AP or any of that, and then how many credit hours you take each semester, we really encourage that once students get here, get situated in those first few weeks of classes, is to start thinking about some academic planning. This will give students an idea of what this is going to look like for their time here at Virginia Tech. I think it also creates a good foundation of, here's what it's going to look like, but now I want to add in those extra things. I want to potentially study abroad. I want to, have an internship this summer. Do I have time to do an internship that summer? Because a lot of times we get questions in our advising sessions of, well, how many credits do I have to take? And it's like, well, what's your plan? Like, when do you want to graduate? What kind of experiences do you want to have? And I think it really sets out that foundation and roadmap that is going to be basically a living document. And so as the semesters continue on, making any kind of modifications or adjustments so that you can use that plan to answer, you know, some of those more specific questions to those student or to that student. So changing majors. So students who are starting this fall semester will be advised under their admitted major. I did mention earlier our transitional advising services for students that are potentially thinking about changing their major or know that they want to change their major. Officially, majors cannot be changed until December, once grades are posted. So what this looks like is if you were looking to change majors outside of the college that you were admitted under, so again, those 8 colleges at the very beginning of the presentation, if you're thinking about, or if the student's thinking about moving out of those, their primary college they were admitted under, then that's when they're going to want to seek transitional advising. However, we do still recommend that they meet with their assigned advisor with their admitted major, because that advisor is going to have to assist them with any forms, policies, deadlines in their first semester. We can't do that as transitional advisors. So we still want you to meet that assigned advisor, know them, know who to contact, but then you can always meet with a transitional advisor to know what classes you will need for that major you're considering changing into. And that's what you can register for in the fall semester if applicable, like if you're able to register for those major specific courses. Now, if you're looking to change majors into a different major within your same college, I would recommend talking to your advisor, your current advisor for your admitted major about that process, because they typically can direct you to somebody within their college versus having to come to transitional advising. So I think it just depends on which route you want to go, whether you're staying in your college or looking to change across colleges. Just another thing to highlight here is Canvas. Again, a technology platform for students to access. And this is our learning management system, or LMS. And so this is where most students will find their course pages for the classes that they enroll in for the fall semester once they register for classes. Most colleges are also using some form of a Canvas site for the summer virtual academic advising and course registration, just to give students an idea of what this looks like, where to submit assignments, things like that, that you already start using it during the summer, so that when it does come time for fall classes to start, you do have an idea of how this platform works. We do also have additional tutorials that are located on our student advising website under the student tech tools section, which will also go over our Navigate platform. It also looks at Hokie Spa. It also looks at a couple of other pieces of technology that students will be using on a regular basis and even during the summer, just so that you can kind of get an idea of what this looks like. And it also includes our Hokie scheduler platform, which students will be using for registration next week as well. So worth taking a look at. It is a public facing page, all the tutorials. So something anybody can access there as far as those tech tool tutorials. So what is academic advising? So academic advising here at Virginia Tech, each individual student will have an academic advisor assigned to them at some point. You may or may not have an assigned advisor at this very moment, but an academic advisor within your college will work with you over the summer, but you may have to wait until closer to the fall semester to get that advisor assigned to you specifically in Hokie Spa. But in this process, it is going to be a collaborative process. Like yes, as advisors can tell you what the curriculum and courses are needed for your program, but I want to know what your student wants to do here at Virginia Tech. Because you might have other goals, other experiences that you want to have, and no two students are the same. And so really getting to know who your advisor is, how to contact them, but then also advisors getting to know the student and getting to know what their goals are and their needs are, so we can make sure that we get you connected to the right resources. So really making sure that you're engaged in that process and bringing any kind of questions that you have, regardless if it doesn't have anything to do with courses. If it's just your transition and kind of being successful as a student here at Virginia Tech, we want to know about it. All right, so moving on to the fall course registration. So every student should have received some kind of information to their Virginia Tech email account from their academic college regarding virtual academic advising and course registration. This could have been received from early May, but on a rolling basis. So it will be dependent on when you accepted your offer as to when you got that communication. So if you missed it, I would go back and look through your VT email because I'm sure you're getting a lot of communication from everywhere. But look for that virtual academic advising and course registration information because it should outline what your experience in your college is going to look like and direct you to some resources and kind of some next steps and things that need to be taken care of. In early June, most likely by this Friday, students will receive an invitation to join a Canvas site specific to their college or major. So again, make sure you check your VT email. And if you see something like that, then you're going to want to make sure that you join it kind of for those next steps of what need to be done and taken care of as far as college specific preparation for advising. I think most students at this point probably have their VT email set up, but you will not get a Canvas invitation unless you have your VT email set up. So if you haven't done that, make sure you do. And then students should also be completing the virtual orientation through Barry and his team's area that opened on May 1, because there are several modules there, including some academics, general information, in addition to other components that opened on May 1 as well. Now, in early June, which again, we're here in early June, that the Hokie Scheduler system is going to open up, which is our registration portal. Now, this is where early next week, the Hokie Scheduler system is going to be available for all new students to go in and explore. So when I say explore, get in there, touch all the buttons that you want to, look through courses. Maybe you got some recommendations from an advisor on what to register for by that point, that you can go in there, look, play around with it. You will not be able to register until Wednesday, June 12th. So that's where you can play around in there, get familiar with the platform itself. Maybe you go back and watch another Hokie Scheduler tutorial to get an idea of what the technology looks like. But that's when registration is going to open, where we say mid-June will specifically be June 12th, that you can start registering. Registration is going to stay open all the way through the start of the fall semester. So you have all summer to go in there, add classes, drop classes. You can start registering for classes without meeting with an advisor. We want this to be, you kind of take in some ownership, go in there. You can make a mistake. It's okay. And you can meet with an advisor, fix the mistake. We won't let students go through and start the fall classes until their schedules have been reviewed by academic advisors to make sure that they are in the correct classes. And so you don't have to have everything perfect on the first day. It's not going to be perfect on the first day. So this is a summer experience, not just a one-point appointment experience. And so knowing that you can always go in there and make adjustments. Okay, the ALEKS placement, and I'm going to touch on this because hopefully everybody already has this information. But again, this would come from your specific college. So students who are intending on majors that need to take the ALEKS placement test for the single calculus of a single variable or general chemistry should have received information about this. It would be from mostly the College of Engineering, Physics, Chemistry, geosciences, some of our more STEM related fields. It is not for Pamplin. I know we get that question a lot. It's only for students who have to take one or both of those classes for their intended major. This ALEKS placement test is, again, a placement guide that we use here at Virginia Tech because we want students to be successful in their first attempt at the calculus and chemistry. If there is a whole website on this. If you search it on the VT homepage for both of the courses, there are passing scores that are needed and so on. If a student, which it says all of this on the website as well, they have a great FAQ. If students are already coming here with previous credit for either one of those courses, whether it's AP, dual enrollment, anything, you don't have to take ALEKS placement. This is just to get into one or both of those courses if needed for that major. Again, this is not required for every student. It's only those who have to have one or both of those courses. And you do have the option to take it 3 times, but again, the ALEKS Placement website for both the calculus and chemistry are phenomenal and should answer every question that you have on there, because that's where I go if I have questions. And so have been able to find an answer every time.
That's a good reminder that to all the families, that usually the way that we find our way around the Virginia Tech website is by Googling whatever we're looking for and then add Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has a vast website with all the information is there. So what you're looking for, type that question in Google and add Virginia Tech, and you'll probably find the answer.
Yes, lots of information available. So I know that the slide is a little overwhelming, but again, hopefully if you go back to the recording, you can always stop it here and write these dates down. But just some reminders that I think families can help with, because it is a lot, is that you'll want to make sure that you update your self-reported academic record, that's SRAR, in your applicant portal. That the virtual orientation opened on May 1 and you have until the end of July to finish that. Complete any of your college specific tasks that are outlined from your college, and then prepare for registration by viewing those tech tutorials. And then there will be some additional online programs after all of this summer experience is over. There are a couple more online programs for knowledge that's needed, depending on if you're a first time in college or if you're a transfer student. And those will have to be completed by, I think that's the 2nd week of classes, or maybe the beginning of the 3rd, by September 9th. So again, checking the VT email is so important, because all of this information will be emailed to the student, so that you know where to go, the deadlines, all of that. So make sure that you follow that. Some additional resources for students and families. We do have an academic calendar, which does list out all of the deadlines for a lot of our policies. We do have academic planning workshops available for students, our counseling center to look at that. We do also have, which I'll mention a little bit more extensively, is our Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is FERPA for short. That you must create a password on HookieSpa for FERPA. And so if, for example, you want to talk to somebody here at Virginia Tech about your students' progress, or any kind of specifics related to them, then you will have to have a passcode and provide that to that individual who you're trying to speak with, so that we know who you are. So that's something that you're going to have to work with your student on, in creating that passcode in HookieSpa, because that goes for talking to most everybody here at the institution about specifics about your student. So make sure that you connect on that and you have that conversation maybe before coming back for the fall of what information is to be shared with whom, creating a passcode and that kind of thing. Because we do feel bad we can't share some stuff, but we do have to follow law and make sure that we are abiding by that, so that passcode is important. And then some guest access, other support services here, and then of course family weekend out of Barry's area that we always love to support there in September. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight, I'm very much a visual person, like to see our student advising website, which a lot of these white buttons here are going to outline the information that I had touched on earlier about, like the student tech tools. There are a lot more campus resources listed here than what I went over, as well as our virtual academic advising and course registration section of our website as well. And so I'll leave this here with our contact information if you do have any questions with the advising at VT, and then of course our phone number. And then let me turn it back over to you, Barry, to then I think get us started on Q&A.
Yes, Q&A. We have 20, currently have 22 answered questions, 26 open questions. So I think I know, and I do want to introduce, even though currently she's hidden, we have our fantastic Associate Director of our New Student Coming Programs office here at Virginia Tech. In the background, Samantha Buchanan, who is frantically answering and linking and posting lots of questions. I do want to remind folks that yes, this video is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel later this week. And if you want a copy of all the questions and answers and everything we've posted in the chat, we can email you these as a document if you complete our survey. We're dangling the carrot a little bit. We want you to complete our survey, which will be on the last slide after our Q&A. So Lauren, you've got the Q&A visible there. And I'll let you just start. And if you could, read them so that people understand which one you're looking at, and we'll make our way through it.
Sure. So I'll start from the top. And so first question I have here is when can an incoming freshman change majors, requiring them to move across campus across colleges? So incoming freshmen can change their major at the end of the fall semester in December, once grades are posted. Even across colleges, even if it's within colleges, you typically are going to have to wait until the end of the fall semester. So that's when you'll be able to change majors. However, if they already know they want to change majors, I would recommend meeting with transitional advising so you can get an idea of courses to register for, so that you're kind of on the right track to go ahead and make that transition when you can, and have those classes already started and completed for that new major. The next question is, if you've scheduled your meeting with an advisor, is there any way to reschedule? Absolutely, there should be. I think most colleges are using the Navigate appointment scheduling system. You should be able to follow the same directions within the initial directions that were sent to you. You can go in and cancel your current one and then reschedule with the same instructions that were handed out the first go around. But if not, if you have issues, you're more than welcome to email the address that's on your screen right now. Sorry, my Q&A jumped. Okay, what are the extra requirements for a double major, example, environmental science and chemistry? This is a little bit of a challenging one to answer because the extra requirements for a double major, you're just going to have to make sure that you meet the requirements for both environmental science and chemistry. So right now we do have check sheets on our website while our undergraduate catalog is being finalized. And so you could always pull up those check sheets, look at the two requirements and see which ones satisfy both majors. And then whatever doesn't satisfy both majors, that's the extra. And so you'll just have to make sure you have the requirements met for both programs. How difficult is it to major and minor in two different schools, accepted in a school of engineering, but might be interested in getting a minor in finance? Sure, it's not difficult at all. It's just the structure of a university of having individual colleges or schools makes no difference. It's not challenging at all. I think it's more so looking at the curriculum. How different or difficult is it to add a minor into an engineering program already if they already have a lot of specific requirements, and figuring out whether or not there is a minor in finance, which I don't think there is, but we could always double check that, or you could too, looking for the minor information, minor check sheets that will let you know if we even have a minor available in that. According to the AP Credit 2024 updated document for AP exam scores, a maximum of 38 credits may be awarded. Are the degree granting transfer credits part of this limit? No, this is just the 38 credits is strictly from AP Credit. And there is no limit to transfer credits except for the number of credits awarded from a two-year institution can only be 60, but those are separate. So 38 is just AP, and then 60 is from a two-year institution. Beyond that, there is no limit. Yes, so that's that for that question. unable to access CNRE advising modules, send an email when it attempts to get in any advice. I would just make sure that when trying to log into things that you're logged into your VT credentials, because a lot of things that are potentially accessed, sometimes even including myself, I'm logged into my personal Gmail account, and so therefore I'm denied access to things. But if they know that they've signed in, they've done everything correctly, I would just, again, shoot the advising@vt.edu email on your screen if you still have issues, and we'll get you connected to somebody or find out what the issue is if you haven't heard back. So you could do that.
We have run into that quite a bit where maybe they're using a family desktop and there's cookies and things that have kept passwords and whatnot. Yeah, make sure that the student is logged out of everything else, logged into the Virginia Tech credentials, and make sure the student is doing it and checking their @vt.edu email to get those links.
Yep. Technology, it can work sometimes. Okay, the next one is, will my student's advisor email prior to the scheduled meeting? It really just depends. Each college and department does things just a tad bit different. And so they may or may not email with any kind of specific information. But if you've gotten something related to scheduling that appointment, then that could be the only initial communication you get until you actually have that meeting on Zoom. Yeah. And then I think I already answered that next question with rescheduling, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Can students sign up for classes that haven't met the prerequisite as of yet because they're waiting for AP credit scores, which should be available in early July? Can you still register for classes on June 12th? Yes, you can still register for classes on June 12th. It really is going to vary by the subject area that the student's trying to register for. Again, it will just vary, but sometimes in the summer we do remove prerequisite requirements because we know that the AP scores every year again are a little bit later. And so we don't want that to keep students from taking that. So that one's a little iffy. It's just going to depend. But for the most part, you should register for most things on June 12th. But again, that's the, I think, nice thing about registration being open all summer is that once you get those AP credits, if you weren't able to register for it, you just hop right back on in. And as soon as your AP scores are here, then you can go ahead and register for those classes. When do students get assigned college-specific advisors? Again, that's going to vary. Some of them have already been assigned and some of them won't until probably early August. So it just depends. Yeah. Let's see here. Can you confirm if the integrated science curriculum does not have to take the ALEKS test? Yeah, I don't think that they do, because that program is set up a little bit different. But you are going to want to confirm with the ISC contact person whom you should already have available to you. But if not, it's somewhere on the website because I did find it last time too, and can always confirm that. The next one is the ALEKS placement required for computer science in the College of Engineering. The computer science program does require that you have calculus of a single variable and chemistry. So in that case, yes, it is required. It just depends on, again, individual student situation, if they already have previous credit and those kind of things. The ALEKS placement test, do students need to take it now since AP scores won't be available until July? No, you can wait. You don't have to. If you feel like that the exam was taken and that you did pretty well on it, then I would wait until early July. Because again, if you're going to have AP credit for it, why take a ALEKS placement test if you don't need it? For College of Engineering students, is it necessary to take math and chemistry that you mentioned in the previous slide? Yes, all College of Engineering students are going to have to take, let's see if I can get back here, are going to have to take the calculus of a single variable in chemistry. It's required across the board. If AP scores won't come in until July, how do we know if we need to take the ALEKS test? I mean, great question. I would just determine, if you feel like you did well, you can always wait until your AP scores come in, or you can take the ALEKS test. It's really up to you. We just want to make sure that students are successful in that very beginning initial time of taking the calculus or chemistry. So you can always wait. It's up to you. Let's see here. If the school is sending final transcripts, do they still need to update the self-reported transcript? Yes, I would recommend doing so because those high school transcripts can take a while to get here, where the self-reported academic record is instantaneous since it's all online. So that's why I do usually recommend that students update that regardless if you've sent your final transcripts, because some of that stuff takes a while to be posted. Why would a student have a registration hold? So every new student, doesn't matter who you are, has a registration hold right now. We do not remove those until June 12th because we don't want students in there, but those will be removed as soon as registration opens on the 12th of June. Do honor students register early? Unfortunately, they do not in this go around. In the future, I do think they get early registration by a couple days, but not during the summer. And then can you please provide the link to your YouTube channel where you'll be posting this recording? I'll let somebody from New Student and Family Programs do that. I forgot the date when incoming students can go and browse the classes before registration. Yep, so that browsing or playing around in Hokie Scheduler is going to be on Monday, June 10th. So that's when that should open for students to be able to look around, but they cannot register for classes. The next one is, does registration for classes happen in Hokie Scheduler or Canvas or Hokie Spa? Yep, it's a lot of technology. So Hokie Scheduler is used for registration. Canvas is going to be used for your courses in the future. So what students are registering for in the fall to kind of turn in assignments and engage with the class. And then Hokie Spa is really everything about that student. And we'll have like your tuition bill can be found there, your unofficial transcript, your transfer credits. So everything about the student is in Hokie Spa, but Hokie Scheduler, which can be found within Hokie Spa, is where you'll actually do the class registration. And then Canvas is more so for courses and some orientation this summer. How imperative is it that students register for class exactly 8 a.m. on June 12th? Will a couple hours or a few days later be a tragic mistake? It's never a tragic mistake. Nobody does anything at 8 o'clock in the morning. Things can always go in and be changed. Departments are always opening up capacities and watching the registration as it's taking place. So if you get on at 8 o'clock, I guarantee Hokie Scheduler will crash. So give it some time anyway, because with everybody trying to register at one time, it does take a toll on the system. But then students are always dropping and adding things all the time. So never a mistake. And 8 a.m., it probably will freeze up on you to begin with anyway. So I would just hang tight. I'm going to be out of the country when registration opens up. Would it be possible for my advisor to start the registration process? If not, and I wait until after returning to start, is there a risk of not getting into the classes necessary for my major or any other classes I would want? Of course, there's always a chance that you would end up with an 8 a.m. class if you didn't want an 8 a.m. class. And so that's always a possibility, but it is an online system. And so you can always potentially, if you have the capacity, can access it, from anywhere. If you wanted to do your registration, again, just like in the previous question, it's never a tragedy. It will get figured out. It just may be that you don't have the times of the classes that you would want, depending on how long, following registration opening. Again, not the end of the world. Things are always changing. You basically have 2 months to get your fall schedule situated. Yeah, that's where I'll stop with that. I went to that page once, but I can't find the exact space where they sign in. I'm not sure what I'm missing. So that was from Mary, and I don't know, maybe you're later on down the road. I'm not sure what page you're referencing. So I'll see if that comment comes up again. The next one is, how do I know which classes to register for on June 12th if my advising appointment isn't until June 18th? Sure. So in some of the college specific material, there should be some recommended classes, or depending on the major, students have been put into classes in their bucket. And so they can then just register for those couple of classes. but there should be information along that way. But even if you have to wait until June 18th, it's not the end of the world. Classes are still going to be there, and you can always make those adjustments as needed. And the next question is, can you confirm if Pamplin students will have heard from their advisor before? Oh no, it jumped. Sorry, I lost it. Come back up here. If Pamplin students will have heard from their advisor before class selections start next week. They could, if the student has done everything that they should have done on their side. So you'll just want to make sure that the student has done what Pamplin has asked of them, and making sure that they keep checking their VT email. But we do also have the remainder of this week and early next week that advisors are working feverishly to get that information out. So they should, but if not, then I would just reach out to that contact in Pamplin that hopefully sent you your initial email. The next question is, where do students download their VT version of Microsoft Office? I'll let new student family programs find that because I'm not sure, and I want to make sure I get to some of the advising questions. Tuition payments for scholarship checks. I don't know that either. My son is locked out of his account due to MFA. He called tech and didn't have a student ID number. He was told to call registrar's offices to sound like the best next step. Yes, I would probably recommend doing that to see if they're able to aid him in that process, because I know you'll need the ID number to be able to get any kind of information, or it should also be somewhere in their acceptance letter as well. And maybe in their applicant portal, you probably could find it in there too, but otherwise registrar's office. If you're not planning on taking chemistry until next year, can you take ALEKS later? Absolutely. You have the 3 attempts the entire time that you're at Virginia Tech. They do not have to be all taken this summer. We have not received academic advisor appointment confirming that we start registration. If advisor changes the schedule later, will we be stuck with original schedule? I'm not sure I understand that question. Advisors shouldn't be changing schedules. This should be everything the student is doing on their own with guidance from the college. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one, but you can always email advising at VT and we can always look into it more specifically if there's still a question.
And Lauren, that's a good second. We're at the 1 hour point here, which time flies when Lauren's answering questions. We want to thank everybody. We're not going to end. We will stay on. But here's what we would advise. Like, we do welcome your questions, and we do want to try to answer some of them. But you can always email Lauren. What would you drop your advising email into the chat? And folks, you should see on the screen, am I correct that there's a slide on the screen right now, big maroon and orange? Okay, where you can email families@vt.edu your questions too, and then our office can try to help you find it. Again, my recommendation, what we'll probably do is Google search for it and add Virginia Tech at the end of your question to try to answer it. I do want to highlight a few things that are on the slide here in front of you right now. We do ask you to evaluate this webinar. It's a lot of information, and we try to couch it as digestible as possible, but fill out that survey, and within this evaluation survey, you can share your email address with us. Obviously, you have to fill out the survey to get to that question where you share your email with us, and we will then email you a document that has all the questions and answers and also all the links that we've put into the chat. So that's an incentive for you to evaluate this webinar for you. You can watch our past webinars at our YouTube channel at Hokies on Track. Our future webinars are listed there and are also on our website. Your next steps need to be the nowwhat.vt.edu new student checklist if you haven't done that already. You can do the optional family view of the virtual orientation, and make sure that your student is checking their @vt.edu email every day, because your student is now the receiver of the information. You as families are in support of that, but your student is now in charge of their academic journey with you helping them. At this point, we're going to go back to our answering some questions live, but we do understand if you as attendees need to drop off and get dinner on the table or go to softball practice or whatever may be happening. Again, we want to thank Lauren Thomas from the Director of Academic Advising here at Virginia Tech. I want to thank Sam Buchanan, our Associate Director of New Student and Family Programs, who is in the background here helping answer questions. And remember, you can watch the recording of this, and then you can also get the chat and the Q&A if you complete our survey. So we're going to now go back to answering questions, but we're going to leave this orange and maroon slide up. Lauren?
Yep.
Let's see if we can get through
them. Sure. And I was typing some of them while you were doing that. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But if after 3 attempts at the ALEKS placement, if for some reason the required score to enter math is not achieved, which is required for our major, how will this impact future abilities to still complete this major? For example, we permitted to try again for spring and so forth, or is it 3 tries only ever? So it's 3 tries only ever. And so if a student does not achieve those, then we do have other alternatives of taking a different math class, earning a certain grade, and after that grade is earned, which again is on the Math 1225 ALEKS Placement website, then once you earn that grade, then you would be able to complete the Math 1225 in a future semester. So we do have other alternatives there. For transferring courses from one or more Virginia community colleges, there are limited transfer credits for individual courses taken, not part of the 2-year degree. So transfer credits for individual courses, that's going to be the total of 60, even if it's part of an associate degree or not. It's 60 from a 2-year school, and that's it. So that would be that answer there. It looks like some classes are showing on Hokie Scheduler now, but others are not. When will all fall classes be available? Early next week. So in Hokie Scheduler, if you've already been in there to look, and there's some things, there's going to be some courses that are in a student's bucket, but then our entire course schedule should be available in Hokie Scheduler. So I'd probably play around with it a little bit more, maybe look at the tech tutorials, to make sure that you're looking in the right place, just to make sure that you have everything that should be within the platform, because all classes should be there. It shouldn't be that only some of them are visible. All right, you say you can register later, but do classes fill up early in the registration period? I mean, of course, classes are going to fill up at different times, but I would recommend that in the registration period, I mean, you know, honestly, classes are going to fill up, but is it at your chosen time, or is it the class that's filled up? So you might have to be flexible in time when you register later. And so that's just going to be how the first semester of registration works over the summer, is registering and having to be flexible in days and times, but still being able to register for courses that help you get to your degree. So yes, some can fill up, but it's not that we only offer so many sections of some courses that first time in college take. So I would just say, be flexible in this first semester, but that yes, some sections of the class are going to fill up, but maybe not the whole class. Will you have to take any sort of placement test if you're a communication major? No placement test for communication. Do some popular classes get full on the first day that registration opens? Yes, but you know, some of our capacities are quite large, so there's always that possibility. I would just keep an eye on it, but you have all summer. If not eligible to take chemistry 1035 and 45, does it mean I cannot major in CS next year? That's not what it means. It's just an alternative of what you would take in your first semester if you cannot enroll in the chemistry. We just want to make sure that you take a preparatory class that's going to help you in that general chemistry when you do end up taking it. If the AP chemistry grade is good, but AP calculus was not, Do they still need to take the ALEKS placement test? Yes. Because there are two separate scores for chemistry and calculus. So if the score for the AP chemistry was fine, but it wasn't for calculus, you would still have to take the ALEKS placement test to gain entry into calculus. What time does registration open on June 12th? 8 a.m. If you're coming in with credit for Math 1025, does that place you out of taking ALEKS for chemistry? No. The only way you can place out of chemistry 1035 is if you have the credit for 1035 or you have a passing score in the ALEKS placement. I would make sure again to read through the FAQs about the requirements. Are helicopter parents able to create an account to see their students' grades, school announcements, etc., asking for a friend? Unfortunately, yes and no. There is a guest account access, but there are some checkboxes and it's very limited. No school announcements. I would just highly recommend that you have a FERPA passcode and that you have that conversation with your student about what those expectations are and have that conversation with them to be engaged. And I think kind of around school announcements, the Hokie Family Hub, I don't know if Barry wants to chime in there for a second, because I feel like that kind of gives some school announcements as well. That would be helpful. And then I can type some answers too.
Yeah, Lauren has FERPA'd and ALEKS tested her voice right out of there. Yeah, for those who are still sticking around, have you joined the Hokie Family Hub yet? Join tonight if you haven't. And if you don't know how to get there, go to nowwhat.vt.edu, go through the checklist, or really just Google search Hokie Family Hub, Virginia Tech, you'll find it. There's an excellent article that's a great follow-up to tonight's webinar, 12 tips for families from an academic advisor who's also a parent. And you can see that the link is there. Oh, and then there's the Hokie Family e-news, which comes from Student Affairs. Great resources. Join the Hokie Family Hub. You get it's information geared specifically for families to support your students through their academic journey, and plus a lot of very university specific information. So the link is there in the chat, and that's all I'll say about that. We're almost to the end.
All right. Next question. Now I'm confused about the purpose of the ALEKS placement test. Is it a test into or out of calc of a single variable course as well as general chemistry? Yeah, it's not placing you out of the exam. The ALEKS placement test is to be able to take calc or chemistry. And so the ALEKS placement test has nothing to do with testing out. It's entry into either one of those courses. Where can I find a program of studies for CMDA in College of Science? Want to know all the required courses. Sure. So as of right now, we're kind of in a transition. We do have old check sheets from last year that I actually have the link here, and I think I saw it come up in the chat too, that you can always look for those requirements, but they will be found in our undergraduate catalog as well. If Math 1225 is required for your major, but you also scored 5 on your AP exam, do you still need to take ALEKS placement test, and the AP credit will count towards? Okay. I think what this is saying is that the AP calculus AB exam with a score of 5 will give you Math 1026, and that is not the equivalent of Math 1225. So if any AP exam, the score gives you whatever credit specifically that you need here at Virginia Tech, like the Math 1225 or chemistry, then you don't need the ALEKS placement test. Because again, you're not trying to take it again. So I think if I'm reading that right, it says the AP credit will count towards Math 1026, which is not the same as Math 1225. So it does, just from this question, not looking into anything else, that you would need the ALEKS placement test. And I think that's it, Barry.
Okay, Well, I will put the survey link in there again. I unfortunately, because we're using a reduced link, it's not hot, so you might have to edit, copy, and paste that into your, but it's also right there on the slide, right in front of you, Greta. We want to thank right now. Okay, so we're closing off the questions, but we do ask any of you who are still on, we got 113 participants. How about dropping a thank you to our fantastic Lauren Thomas, the Director of Academic Advising Initiatives at Virginia Tech, into the drop that into the question and answer to give her a thank you for her good work. And we want to thank you, all of you who watched and endured the hour of all the specifics. Once again, you can rewatch this on our YouTube channel. And if you do the survey, which Sam, how about dropping that also in the chat, that hot link. It was in the, oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, there it is. Baseline Campus Lab. Okay, gotcha. There's the active link. Thank you. So fast. Faster than I can even say it. Do that survey, and the last question of that survey is ask for your email address if you want a copy of the Q&A and of the chat. And be honest in your survey to help us improve, but we do appreciate some positive feedback too, don't we? Once again, thank you so much to Lauren Thomas. This is the second time that she's done this. She is a walking encyclopedia. Lauren, you are officially contracted to never, ever, ever leave Virginia Tech. You must die in office. We
I'm glad it
really
was
appreciate
helpful.
you. Very, very helpful. Thanks again to Samantha Buchanan for answering so many of the questions. And we're happy to introduce Samantha McDonald, who's been in the background, our summertime graduate assistant, NOTA intern, who's been with us through August, learning about new student and family programs, and hopefully helping answer some of your questions. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to end the webinar. I'm going to stop the recording, and this will be up on our YouTube channel, hopefully before Friday. Lauren, have a good night. Go take care of that voice.